Hello, chess parents. Today I'm excited to show you the most commonly misunderstood rule in the game of chess. That is the rule of en passant. It is spelled E-N, space for a new word, P-A-S-S-A-N-T. It is a French word or a French phrase, and it means in passing. I'm going to show you an en passant capture first, and then I'm going to explain it. White can, in this position, advance this pawn 2 squares forward, because pawns can advance 2 squares forward on their first move. And black can use this pawn to capture en passant by advancing to this square, and the white pawn disappears. That's pretty weird, right? This is the only time in a game of chess that you can capture a pawn or anything without going to the square that that piece is on. Let's try and understand how this rule actually works. There are 3 basic parts. First, a pawn must advance 2 squares forward. It will end up beside an enemy pawn. That pawn may now capture on the square that the pawn just advanced through, like this. So the pawn advances 2 squares, it lands beside an enemy pawn, the enemy pawn may capture on the square that the pawn just moved through. If all of those conditions are not there, then you may not make an en passant capture in the position. There's also one other little rule to remember. If the pawn advances 2 squares forward, and then both players play a different move, you may not then capture en passant. You can see that the software is not letting me make the capture. So en passant can only happen immediately after a pawn has advanced 2 squares forward. This is also something that only happens between pawns. Knights, bishops, rooks, or queens cannot make en passant captures. En passant is only one pawn capturing another pawn. Okay? Let's try and see this in another position. We'll simply move the king over for white, and now black could choose to advance this pawn 2 squares forward. This is an excellent move for black, and in fact this advance would even win the game if white were not allowed to capture en passant. Both of the white pawns are in position, they are beside the black pawn, that is just advanced 2 squares forward, to make the capture on this square. Let's use the A pawn, the far left one, and we'll see the black pawn disappears from the board. It may be useful to know how this rule came about to better kind of understand and remember this rule. The rule came about because in chess, it used to be that pawns could only advance 1 square forward at all times. And then to speed up the game, they said, let's let pawns advance 2 squares forward on their first move. This has generally been a really good change to the game that has made the game more fast-paced and more fun. However, that means that an advanced enemy pawn that is guarding the advance of an opponent's pawn would no longer have the right to capture if that pawn advanced 2 squares forward. They said, let's give the right to capture back to that pawn through this rule en passant that says when a pawn moves 2 squares forward, an enemy pawn that was guarding the advance of that pawn can still exercise the right of capture, but only immediately after. Hopefully you now feel comfortable with the rule en passant. If not, you can rewatch this video to try and process it a little better, and we'll also have a link below the video where you can check out this rule on Wikipedia and see a written explanation. This is the most commonly misunderstood rule in chess, so much so that at chess.com, it is our most common bug report that we receive, where people may be concerned, because they don't know the rule, that there is a bug in our software, or that their opponent is somehow cheating or hacking the system. Now, you know better, and you can use this in your own games. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you again in a future instructional video.